Good morning. This
Good
is a
morning.
prayer for caregivers. Loving God, bless the hands that comfort the hearts that give without measure, and the spirits that remain steadfast in the face of weariness. Grant caregivers the strength to rise each day with renewed hope, the patience to meet each moment with grace, and the wisdom to know they are never alone in their journey. Wrap them in your peace when the nights feel long, and fill them with joy in the smallest victories. Let their compassion be a reflection of your love, and may they always feel the quiet assurance that their work is sacred and seen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Is-
Winona, would you send me that prayer?
I'll send it out with everything that we
Okay.
asked for today.
Okay.
So,
And Natalie?
so here, I'm going to read you the bio we got from Stuart. Stuart Pollock is the son of Robert and Sandy Pollock, longtime and faithful members of Abington Episcopal Church. He grew up in a family where church, community, and service was simply part of everyday life. He has two sisters, an older sister who lives in Nashville, and a younger sister who lives in Gloucester. After graduating from Men'sville High School in Newport News, Stuart moved to Gloucester with his parents. He later attended Christopher Newport College. Following graduation, Stuart followed in his father's footsteps and entered the Army. His years of service took him many places, but home and his church family were always where his roots remained. He returned whenever he could for family milestones and meaningful gatherings. One of the most special was his marriage to his wife, Michelle, in 1987. They were married in the newly renovated Abington Church, beginning their life together grounded in faith. Stuart and Michelle returned to the area in 2004 and settled in Yorktown. Stuart retired from the Army at the end of 2010 after 26 years of service. In retirement, he has stayed busy buying, renovating, and managing homes, some to keep and some to sell. Being self employed has given him the flexibility to be present for his family and to help care for his aging parents, which he sees as both a responsibility and a blessing. In this breath of fresh air talk, Stuart will share his family's journey of walking with their mother through the progression of Alzheimer's. He will speak about leaning on faith during uncertain and painful seasons, about choosing love in the small daily moments, and about trusting that even in decline, God is still present. Help them create new, meaningful moments filled with grace, dignity, and passion. So I'll add that I've been one of the people who've been fortunate enough to help the Pollock family with Sandy's care, I don't know, the last 2 or 3 years. But I'm not going to talk about me. I give you now Stuart Pollock. And thank you so much, Stuart, for doing this.
No, thanks for asking me. Okay, so we'll see if we can get through this because you guys have already struck a nerve once or twice.
You like striking nerves, Stuart.
All right, well, I got my notes that'll walk me through it. Okay, so thanks for inviting me to speak. Hopefully I have something interesting and motivating for you. When Natalie asked me I think it's the prayer, you guys, that kind of set me off. Thanks for that. When Natalie asked me to talk, I knew a little bit about Breath of Fresh Air. I knew it was led by Abington Church. It was 10 a.m. Saturday. We heard about it in church quite a bit, and it was a women's spiritual group. I didn't know a whole lot about it at the time, so I got online and looked it up, and turns out I was listening at church. It was pretty close to my understanding. As you might be able to tell, though, I'm not a woman. And I'm also here to admit that I'm not the most spiritual person in the world. I feel like I'm fairly pragmatic. And when I started writing this, um, there were several occasions where I recognized that I was being, just kind of wrote in telling my story, but not really um, turning it back to a reflectional period. So with those disclaimers up front, I hope my family's journey and particular point of view might help with the period of spiritual reflection and renewal, which is the goal of your group. On another note, whenever I say I or me, I almost always mean my wife. Michelle has been the most selfless wife and partner and companion that I could have asked for. She's over here with me every time, even when she doesn't need to be, supporting me and in our journey. The other one is, I mean, this is a family journey. This is not about me. This is about our family. My two sisters aren't here. That's why I asked for for recording, so I could share that with them later. You guys did a great job with the introduction. I'll skip that on mine here, but I will tell you that part of our decision to come back to Abingdon was to share our time with our parents. There were, I don't know how many churches we passed by on the way here. There are other Episcopal churches that are closer than Abingdon to us, but we had built that connection earlier on, and it really gave us a chance to spend more time with Mom and Dad on the weekends. Because my younger sister Karen lived right across the street from our parents, she's always been the biggest help in the routine care. Over the years, she and her husband Brian, they've been a really big help to Mom and Dad over their battles with cancer, Mom's AFib, Dad's knee replacements, other ailments, and things like that. They've always been there to assist Mom and Dad as Mom and Dad supported each other. Unfortunately, in 2017, my father passed away from a quick and a short battle with cancer. This left Mom alone in the house. Luckily, she had Karen and Brian across the street. They both stepped up and did wonderful things for Mom, from yard work, house maintenance, dinners, meds, and all the other things that comes with keeping a house up and running. However, Brian and Karen both had full-time jobs, and Mom spent a lot of her times, a lot of her time during the day at home alone. I'll reflect back, even before all this came along, Mom, I think, always had a premonition of where things were going. I remember we were traveling. Anytime we traveled, Mom always had a game book with her, Sudoku, crossword puzzles or something. And she always said, "This is going to keep my mind sharp." I think she was fighting something she really wasn't even sure that she had yet. Unfortunately, those little signs that we thought we noticed when Dad was alive, when he was no longer there, they really kind of started jumping out. And we started noticing them, at least Karen did, because she lived right across the street. Mom started waking up at all times of the day or night, and losing track of days or losing track of time. Karen would look over and the lights would be on at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. Mom started losing track of her med routine. We'd come over and we'd look, or Karen would come over and she'd look, and the meds would either be too many or too short. And Mom couldn't remember if she had taken it for that day. And then, there's other concerns that we started noticing. In 2018, I think it was, Michelle and I took a trip to Maui for a week, and a week in Oahu. So there was a flight change there, and we brought Mom with us. During this trip, it became pretty evident that something was going on, and Mom was struggling with things. One day, Mom found her in the hotel room, and she was crying. She couldn't find the bathroom in the hotel room. So later on in the trip, when we were in Oahu, we're talking to Mother and realized that she didn't even realize that we'd gotten on a plane and changed islands. We're in a totally different setup than we were just a couple days ago. So while we had a lovely trip full of great memories, we started to recognize that leaving her alone at home was really no longer a realistic option. Dad always wanted to age in place. They built the house in a way that could be modified to do that. Karen never wanted to rely on a nursing home and to keep mom at home right across the street from her. She really felt that she could take care of her by herself, or she and Brian. But we also started noticing more and more indicators that it was becoming a bit more burdensome on Karen and Brian, who both had full-time work. Mom was stuck at home by herself. And Michelle gently reminded us of something, really important and something that everybody should remember. Allowing mom to move to a place with assistance was not abandoning her. It was caring for her. It was allowing somebody else to help you help them. At some point, we as a family, mom included, felt that it was time to consider that retirement community move. As we noted earlier, we might not have all been on the same page, but we were having the discussion, we were having the conversation. While Karen and Brian were super helpful, we all started to recognize that there was going to come a point where mom would need round-the-clock care, like a memory care unit. We knew that was coming, and we all felt that part of the decision to do this was to make the move to an assisted living situation before the dementia kicked in and made it really hard to understand the complete change in environment. So that initial move was not only so much to help mom in her socialization or her social aspect. Instead of sitting at home all day, she was in a vibrant community where they had things going on all day, bingo and music and dances and community meals. But she also was very close to the memory care unit, which we figured was in the near future. Mom had always been open to a retirement community, especially when we were, when Dad passed, we started talking about, how things would go, what we might want to do, and she really had a fondness for Patriots Colony. Over in Williamsburg, they catered to the military, and they were in her familiar Riverside system. Our goals initially were help with meds, dinner preparation, social activity, and the recognition that there would. Okay, well, that in the background we've got a bird that we're taking care of right now. So excuse the chirping if you can hear that. I don't know how disturbing it is. Maybe I can get someone to come put a blanket over top of her. Okay, so our goals initially were with meds, dinner preps, and social activities. Also with the recognition that there would be increased care required. My older sister, who was a nurse, reminded us that we really needed to consider an environment that had the different steps. You could go from unassisted to assisted to memory care to nursing care. So as we started looking around, from Williamsburg to Newport News to Gloucester, everything in that general area, we started weeding out those communities that didn't have the full range of care. While Patriots Colony had it, Chesapeake had it, and there were a few other places that had it. We settled on the Chesapeake and Newport News. It wasn't quite Patriots Colony, but one thing that it did do is it got us much closer to mom. We're 15 to 20 minutes away from mom as opposed to 45 minutes. So what was an hour and a half round trip without the visit literally became a place that one of us was driving by on a regular basis and could just pop in on the way coming home from work or on the way coming back from, doing a task somewhere on the peninsula. So the Chesapeake was further than Karen would have liked, and it wasn't quite the Patriots Colony, but it really was convenient especially for me. We live in Yorktown. We live about 15 minutes away. Um, um, Michelle had Rotary on Monday evenings, so she was not at home with me for dinner. So I use that as my opportunity to go have dinner with mom every Monday evening. Michelle and I both would drop in once, twice, 3 times a week for other occasions. Like we would go pop in for lunch. We'd pop in for bingo. Or we'd pop in when they had a band coming and playing, just to share our time with mom, and also to enjoy the community that she now called home. Meemaw, Karen, and the grandkids, they would also come by on the weekends from Gloucester and drop in on the weekdays also. But I guess the point with the Chesapeake was it was close and it was very convenient, and we tried to make her feel at home while she was there. One of the things that I would do, also in the vein of getting her ready and creating a sense of community and recognition and familiarity, was I would coordinate for days to go down and play bingo in the memory care unit. So we would go down and play bingo with all the lovely ladies in that unit. It's interesting. I hadn't thought about it till I wrote this, but most of the people in that memory care unit were women. And there were very few men. But again, our intent was to make a space familiar to her, so when that inevitable transition happened, it wasn't something that was very traumatic. At this point, we were still picking her up and bringing her to church on Sunday mornings. And in the long run, I think we were very satisfied with the Chesapeake. Anything that we say in this, it has, as we go in through the story, don't get me wrong, we were not unhappy with the Chesapeake as a community to live in. However, then COVID hit. The entire world locked down. We still visited, but early on we had to sit outside on the grass. Mom lived on the 3rd floor. We would pull chairs up and we'd have conversations with mom on the 3rd floor. Hey, mom, how you doing? What's going on? So, as you can imagine, that would be really hard to have an intimate, loving, casual conversation with somebody when you're yelling halfway, up a 3rd floor, up a 3rd floor building. So shortly after COVID hit, the nursing staff recommended that mom move down to the memory care unit. It was a tough choice for us. Knowing that mom was now going to be moved into a locked unit where she couldn't come and go as she pleased. The good part was the staff could make the room look very similar to what she had upstairs, reducing the negative effects. However, the transition was made on her own with help from the staff. Because of COVID, we couldn't come and help move her stuff downstairs. We came to visit upstairs. 1 month, and 9 months later, we were coming to visit her in a room downstairs. We all continued, a similar visitation process. However, you guys, I'm sure you all remember how COVID went. You couldn't, they wouldn't let you go near people. You had to be outside. You had to wear masks. Luckily, the memory care unit was on the 1st floor. And there were several visits where we came and we visited through a cracked window. I mean, they would literally open the window about 3 inches so that mom could look outside and see us sitting outside of her window. When they started opening things up a little bit, it opened up to the point where they let us into the courtyard, and they had a big 8-foot plexiglass wall that they put between us. So mom and I could sit in our easy chairs out in the yard and sit and talk with each other. Other times we were completely shut out. Based on the decisions of the government, the healthcare community, and the local COVID situation, there were times where, hey, how's mom doing? Well, she's doing really good. She's walking her normal exercise routine around the building, but you can't come visit. can't do anything inside, can't do anything outside. We're not opening the windows. They just wouldn't allow us to visit. During this time, Mom started, she was beginning to struggle feeding herself. The staff tried to help, providing finger foods. They were not staffed nor allowed to feed her. That was an agreement that we made up front. Even in the memory care unit, each resident was supposed to be able to feed themselves. If they couldn't feed themselves, they generally were moved down the hall to the nursing care section. Mom was still up and walking every day, moving, having conversations. There was really no reason for her to move to the nursing care side other than she was having a hard time eating. So with a little negotiation with the Chesapeake, we were able to convince them to allow one of us to come in the evenings to help her eat. The agreement was somebody would come in and go straight back to her room, help her eat, and would go straight back home. They would not, there was no real, you're not here to visit, you're here to help your mother eat. Now, an interesting note is when I would go to help her eat, she would eat fine all by herself. Once she got into her room, feeding herself did not seem to be as much of a challenge as it seemed to be outside her room. And I think part of that was Mom was beginning to get a little confused about eating, and being in a public space embarrassed her. That's probably the best word, embarrassed her to the point where she was shy about making a mistake in front of somebody. So she just would not eat. However, get her in a room with, even when I wasn't there, many times I'd come into a room and the plate would be clean already. I'm like, oh, okay, you don't need me tonight. That's great. But I believe she was confused about how to eat, didn't want to embarrass herself. It was a confusing time. Next week, things might be completely different. We had to call before each visit to see what would be allowed. As we watched the months and months of news of assisted living facilities just get decimated by COVID, we were all relieved that ours remained safe. Then one day it wasn't. They called one day and told us that Mom was sick. She likely had COVID. So we rushed. We rushed to the Chesapeake. They wouldn't let us in. They brought her out in a wheelchair. We got her in the car. We took her to local hospital and got her a transfusion. I think it was Paxlovid. After the transfusion, we took her back to the Chesapeake and dropped her off at the door as we weren't allowed in. That was kind of a tough day because we knew we were picking her up. We could give her a hug. We could help her get the transfusion. But when we dropped her back off again, we weren't there to help her recover, to give her some hugs, to have conversations, to do basically anything. COVID had breached the unit, and they were in a lockdown. They were not going to let us in. So about a week later, we got a call that Mom was she was lethargic, she was delirious, she was belligerent, which is not very Sandy-like if you know her. So again, we took her to the emergency room, and we were glad to be able to touch her and hug her again, even if it was just for a little short while. In the emergency room, they diagnosed her with a urinary tract infection and dehydration. At the time, the emergency room even tried to run me out, saying that she might have COVID and I couldn't stay. And I had to remind them of two things. One, that I had my vaccination, and two, Mom had just had COVID 2 weeks ago. So if you do any blood tests or any COVID test, COVID's going to show up because those markers were in her system. So at that point, because they knew she'd had the Paxlovid and I was vaccinated, they let me stay. But again, it was just one of us. The The doctor came in and he told us that he gave us the diagnosis: dehydration, urinary tract infection. Gave us the drugs that she needed, and told us to take her back home and recommended that she go into hospice care due to her weakened condition. Our biggest factor for the next decision was the fact that we had been 100% isolated from our mother for several weeks at this point. They had once the COVID hit, helping her eat was off the table. Coming in and out of the facility was off the table. We were not the only physical or the only real contact we had with our mother in the last, I think, month was the time we took her to the hospital for Paxlovid and then this emergency room visit. So what do we do at this point? One thing was for sure: if Mom was headed to hospice, she wasn't going to die alone. So we knew it was time to bring her home. All right, so this is where the blessings come in. Blessing number one: we decided to bring her home. We were lucky we still had the house. Mom had been out for, I think, 2 years, and we had been slow rolling, getting the house ready to sell. We were packing things up, moving them around, trying to figure out what we were going to do. We hadn't really seriously considered selling it yet, but we never anticipated Mom needing the house again. So Jan came in from town, from Nashville, to set up shop and help with Mom's transition. So blessing number two: having a nurse in the family was really helpful and really important. We cleared the boxes out of the living room, created a bedroom, and we all helped for the first month, expecting to lose Mom at any point. Blessing number three: with 24-hour care, plenty of fluids, and care that we, Jan, Karen, Stuart, Michelle, we nursed her back to health. Within a month or two, Mom was up and back walking laps around the house, assisted only by her walker. She was, at this point, still able to get up and down on her own. She was half feeding herself, half not. We were still having conversations, sometimes a little confusing, but she could still tell us what she wanted, what she didn't want. But she still needed help eating, toileting, and keeping the household running. She was still in hospice, but didn't seem to be going anywhere soon. Jan couldn't stay forever. Mom needed 24-hour care. Michelle came in for daytime support. And then we hit another setback. Michelle fell off her bike, broke a collarbone, tore an ACL, and she was no longer able to provide the same level of support that she was giving before. Another family meeting was called, and we came up with a compromise. We would call in for some outside help, which is where we get blessing number four. We found some great, loving, caring people to help us. We decided to hire out daytime help to allow Karen to get back to work. Michelle and I would come over on the weekends, and Jan could support from home with expertise, logistics, and administrative help. That was early 2021. As 2021 became 2022, became 2023, 2024, we had developed a routine. We all coordinated for respite care for Karen because she carried the biggest load. She and Brian were over here on a regular basis for the first year taking care of Mom. And even when we brought in daytime help, they were still doing a full day a Saturday, but that required two people. Jan and Rick would come in to help give Karen, especially Karen, a break, and ourselves a break every now and then. And they would come in for a week or two, once or twice a year. recognizing that Jan and Rick both have full-time jobs back in Nashville. So that was a huge um, task for them, just to pack up everything and come for 2 weeks twice a year. Mom continued her slow decline, eventually requiring assistance getting up out of the chair, and then full-time assistance walking to help her keep from falling, requiring to be hand-fed every bite as opposed to occasionally. And her ability to speak has declined to a few very short, unrelated words for the most part, although she still maintains her polite manners. It's interesting. You can't get, very rarely do you get a coherent sentence out of Sandy, but thank yous are a regular basis. Mom still has that gracious mannerism in her core. Blessing, which brings us to blessing number 5. Dementia does different things to different people, often making some people mean and dangerous. We're grateful as a family that Mom has maintained her polite, friendly, pleasant personality. Blessing number 6. Mom had the resources to cover all her expenses. She and Dad managed their retirement plans well. I remember them commenting when I was younger that their goal was to have enough to pay the bills all the way through to the end. Early 2024, we hit another stumbling block. Brian, Karen's husband, was diagnosed with cancer. It's also important to recognize that Brian's mother was also battling cancer at this time. So life had sent us a new challenge, but this is where family kicks in. Michelle and I packed our bags, moved 45 minutes from our home in Yorktown, and moved in with and took care of Mom, allowing Karen to focus on Brian and his mother. Michelle and I stayed here full time through 2024 until mid-June 2025. Unfortunately, Brian passed away in December of 2024. Karen's been able to help since then with the overnights, although without Brian, her ability to physically assist has diminished. By now, Sandy has declined to the point where she requires 100% assistance in every aspect of her life. She can very rarely speak in understandable phrases. She rarely speaks at all. When she does now, it's not understandable. Her ability to walk has declined to the point where only family members will walk with her. And none of the aides will walk with her. They won't take the risk of a fall on their watch. An outsider might ask why we don't have her in a nursing home at this point. We can only say that we have a proven system, and we can do this as a family. And of course, we love our mother. My personal goal these days is just to get a smile out of her. That's it. If she smiles, I believe she feels our love. If I can get her to interact, that's even better. Even if she's interacting, she's talking to me, and it's not understandable, I believe that she understands our presence. She's acknowledging my presence, and she's acknowledging her enjoyment of my presence when she has these conversations with me. As a family, I'll say that the journey's brought about some conflict, but the conflict is always accompanied by love. Frustrations lead to grace. Personality differences lead to a better understanding of each other. I believe our parents shared this love by their example, and they showed us that love is patient, kind, unselfish, and enduring, and love never fails. All right, so now you've heard my story, our story. How does this affect us spiritually? This is a piece where I had to ask for some help. I've told you Michelle's been a rock for me. So she's helped me to remember to get out of my more pragmatic side and get spiritual. So we love our mother. God loves our mother. We're not questioning his purpose. I'm sure he has one, Some of that plan reveals itself every day, but I'm sure the biggest revelation is to come. I see God in my mother's smiles. I hear it in her thank yous. I see it in her personality. And the hardest part for me to tell you this right now is it was 4 weeks ago, I heard a complete sentence out of her, and she said, "You guys are taking really good care of me." That's the last sentence, or that's the only sentence I've heard probably in the last year, the last 12 months. So that was good to hear. Okay. Now that I laid all that out there, what do you got?
Back to you, Terry, right? So I'm going to pick up here for a second. Terry, you're muted. And I think you're trying to maybe get yourself together.
Yes.
Let me just say,
Can I just ask everybody if you're muted, because I muted some of you when we started recording, if you would unmute? That would be helpful. Thanks.
I think
So-
We have 17 people. We have 17 people. Do you want to go to small group or do you want to stay in large group?
Oh, let's stay in a large group.
Okay.
so I want to say one thing. Again, thank you to Stuart and Michelle, but what Stuart just shared is the reason that I particularly asked Stuart to share with us, because as one of the people who is and was blessed to help this family care for their mother, it was obvious to me, kind of as a professional and as a caregiver myself, and as a member of Abington family, just to see a family unite around a challenging situation, and intermittent challenging situations, and from my perspective, succeed.
I totally agree, Natalie. How many folks here have been in a position similar to Stu's? Done caregiving or had someone that needed your help. So I think that's what touched my heart. I'm really amazed, Stu, that you were able to get through that. I'm not. To
I
see
will
the
say
blessings,
that
to see the blessings is really amazing. And so you are in touch with your spirit.
whoever was on earlier who was saying that they're just now beginning to have diagnosis, and all these decisions are starting to, be on their horizon. It was really, really the hardest decision was to say, even though we know ideally having her at home is the best decision, it wasn't necessarily feasibly possible. And for my sister-in-law to let go of that and allow her to be moved to the Chesapeake, that was probably the hardest thing. And it was the right decision for that moment. So if a family member is resisting it, it does need to be a gradual process and a gradual thing, but it doesn't mean you're abandoning them. And I think that's an important piece. I had to convince her that she wasn't abandoning her mother. She just needed to be engaged while her mother lived somewhere else. And that was the right thing at that moment for us.
One of the things that I would tell everybody, and I don't get me wrong, or don't take this. I'm not an expert in the memory care world, but I think that socialization, mom living at home by herself was not a good thing. She was just bored watching TV all day long. Moving to the Chesapeake, as even in the assisted living side, was good for my mother because she had people to hang out with. She ate dinner in a community every night. They had bingo, they had all kinds of stuff going on. And just because she was there didn't mean that, we didn't come and I actually spent more time with her there than when she was living at home. And than when she was living at home because I could just drop in. One, it was closer for me, but it was also on my way back and forth. Number two, if you see the memory care unit in the future, I remember one lady came in one time and she spent the entire all day long walking through the unit looking for her husband. Where's my husband? Where's my husband? When's he going to come get me? When's he going to come get me? Not realizing that, she was going to spend the night there. And that was her new home. So that acclimatization is probably a very practical word to use. It's harsh, but the acclimatization to the atmosphere is also, I think, important for somebody who's going through the process. So okay, mom needs 24-hour care now. We're gonna change the environment 100% before she or after she has the ability to even recognize what's happening. So.
So, Stuart and Michelle, I just wanted to say thank you. Your mom and I had some really good times. She's a cool lady. And when I see her and she's still Sandy. She's still Sandy. And as far as your decision making, it's important to know whatever decision you make as a family is the best decision for your family. There is no one size fits all, and it changes. One day it's one thing, the next day it's another thing. I think you all have done a wonderful job of finding out what works for your family and what works for your mom. So, thank you for sharing your story and for sharing Sandy with us. Please give her a hug. Lots of hugs.
We'll do that for
Want to
sure.
say something? Sven?
Did you call me? So I was going to say that I remember visiting Sandy in the unit at Chesapeake, and one of the things I was so impressed with was the wall of pictures. It may have been a quilt, it may have been pictures, but you had a whole wall of all your family up there, so she could see everybody, and it was sort of like, okay,
It's a
here's
family
Michelle.
tree.
Yeah, it's a family tree, and so it was not only the faces but also the connections, and so this is going to be sound very practical, but it's actually has a big spiritual edge to it that just want to raise up, because there are, I see a lot of families that go, families and individuals and couples that go through this journey of losing someone's memory, going perhaps all the way to dementia, and oftentimes what I see is an anger from the partner a lot of times. They're like, come on, you know this. And it's very tough. It is very tough to be with someone and realizing that they're failing and to realize their memory is failing. And there are a lot of resources. Like I think y'all got that idea from someone. And there are a lot of resources of things to do. You know, even as down as changing clocks from one format to another, having images, learning what does it mean for that person to still be who they are, but to lose part of their memory. And so I just want to commend the practice that y'all have been through of sort of finding out what works and then being willing to try it or implement it. And that's a huge spiritual step, because I think all of us want to feel like we're in control. And in control means that we're going to do it our way and to know that we know how, and to acknowledge that I need to let go of a little bit of control. I'm going to learn from others, is a way of lessening yourself and allowing the Spirit of God and the Spirit of God known in the community to step in. And I think y'all have done that on so many levels. I see other families doing as well, but I just want to commend y'all for that hard and holy spiritual discipline of letting go and being open to new learnings and new possibilities and seeing how they work so that the person that is still there has the best chance they can to be the person they are.
Thank you, Sven.
Thank you, Sven. I just like to say from Terry's my sister, and our transition with our mother after our dad had died and it was clear she had dementia. Well, the best decision really for the family and for Agnes was to bring her to Newport News, where she had Terry and Tom's dad all together to support her in this transition. But it did leave our two siblings in Texas feeling abandoned and I'd say criticized because we were taking her out of their orbit, and that's tough. So I salute the Pollocks and their family for navigating that and getting through that, and just keep looking for that grace.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd just like to say that having had to put my mom into an assisted living facility, your decision to have her near, located nearby so you could pop in a lot, that is such a good thing to do when someone's making a choice, because just to go in, if you're 15, 20 minutes away, logistically, you can just go in all the time. Like you said, it's on your path. And when my mom was in her apartment, my husband and I, between the two of us, we were over there almost every day. One of us, I'd stop in on my way from work. He'd pop in. My daughter would stop in on the way from work. It's just wonderful to have those frequent visits. And then the other thing about picking out a facility is that there are a lot of beautiful facilities and they're really fancy, but what it really comes down to is the staff. You could have the most fancy facility, but you don't have a caring, loving staff. That makes no difference. It's all about who is taking care of your mom. And we were blessed with a really loving facility. The caregivers were just so kind. They loved mom loved them. So that's a really important component too, to look at. What are the people like that work there?
Yeah, and we certainly went to we probably went to a half a dozen or more places, and we did briefly have a specialist, somebody who knows all of the facilities and got to know us and who we were and who she was, so that she could say, I think that will be a better fit than this place because of these things. And we didn't just tour the assisted living areas because we knew ultimately the memory care was coming. So we made sure that we were touring the memory care, and we spent time in them long enough to know whether or not the staff was engaging with them or if they were just sort of milling around. And that did make a big difference.
Yep.
I've known the Pollocks for many years and loved them as part of my family. And Sandy and I just had a wonderful connection. When I would see her at church, we went to Hawaii with them. She overheard me say one day that on my bucket list, our bucket list was Hawaii. And she said, did I hear you say that? And she said, well, you're going to go with us. And that time together was just so special because we were together 24/7. I have always felt very connected to her, and I really, really admire this wonderful family that has stepped up through, trials and tribulations. I'm an only child, and so my mother was mentally very acute until the moment she died, but physically was not. And I was over Newport News constantly and working and trying to see her. And I finally said to her one day, I said, Mom, you're going to have to move to Gloucester. I know you don't want to, but for me to be able to take care of you. And she said, well, I'll move in with you. And I said, well, that's not possible because I'm working. My door is open constantly. People are in and out. The phones are ringing. And you have your routine and I have mine, but I want to be with you. So we moved her to Sanders, and she was in my backyard, literally. And I would call her and I'd say, hey, I'm working out back. Go to the window and wave to me. And I would go over every day and play bingo with her. And that's what's important. Warren's mother, we did the same thing. She did have Alzheimer's, and she was in the memory unit. And she knew Warren and she knew me. She didn't know the grandchildren because they weren't around her very much. But she was happy in her own world. And the thing to remember is they can hear everything you're saying. That is the very last thing to go. And to be able to constantly say, I love you. And as I said in the previous thing, I see God through the eyes of people that have Alzheimer's, because they're there with us. And the hardest thing, I think, is really for the families to watch this, to feel like they're losing their loved ones because they can't communicate. But I really admire both of you. And Warren's mother knew him, and she would go through the 5 o'clock, getting angry and wouldn't come out of the bathroom. And they'd call Warren and say, you have to come over here. And he'd go over, knock on the door and say, Mom, it's Warren. Oh, hey, I'll be right out. They've been trying for 2 hours to get her out of the bathroom. So, you have to learn what things work. And a lot of things, my daughter took care of a lady with Alzheimer's. And one of the things she learned when she would go into her anger state, throwing things and what have you, that there was an old song that she had shared with her, that she was raised near an amusement park. And they would sing that song together. And she learned that when she was angry, she would start singing the song to her. And it just brought her right down immediately. And she would sing. So there are triggers there. But thank you.
You know what?
Mm-hmm.
You're reminding me earlier when she first came home and she was still struggling with the UTIs and things like that. Sometimes those things would make her a little bit agitated.
Oh, yeah.
And my sisters-in-laws, Karen and Jan, who were here in the beginning, started singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how we would get through the changes. And row, row, and she might say the words, but you could see her going,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
knew it.
and
Yeah.
music has been a huge part. When she stops speaking and responding, it's hard to have a conversation. So oftentimes, for me anyways, I put Alexa on and I play some 50s music or 60s, whatever. And I sing to her, and you can see she recognizes music is a great thing. It's a great thing for her.
Yeah.
So.
And it brings back so many memories. If you play the old tunes that she and her husband used to dance to and be, because it brings back all those memories. Yeah. But thank you all. And thank you so much, Stu, for sharing with us, because it really helps.
Yeah, thank you for that, Helen. I also you brought up a good point there. Hearing's the last thing to go. I think that not only does she hear, but I think she understands. There are very subtle indicators when we're walking and she tries to sit down and I go, "Hey, Mom," and I lean down in front of her and I point over to the left. I says, "We're going to sit in that chair over there." She'll quit trying to sit and she'll actually let me guide her over to that chair. So there's times, you think they're not, you think they're not hearing or they're not understanding. But I think she still hears, she understands. And I think that when that sentence that she said, "You guys are taking good care of me," came out in a time when I looked, was me and her, she and I all by ourselves. And I looked at her and I said, "Mom, I know you have a hard time telling me what you're thinking, but I know you're hearing me and I know you understand me." And that was a day when there was garbled conversation going on. But when I said that to her, that's when she came back to me and said that, which was, it kind of dumbfounded me because I had not heard a coherent sentence in close to a year. So
yeah, remember that until she takes her last breath, she can hear everything you say to her.
And she's understanding. Yep.
Yeah. I went over to visit her and I looked at her and of course I said, "I love you." And she mouthed back, "I love you." And also I said, "Oh man, we had such good time in Hawaii." And she grinned from ear to ear, like she knew exactly what I was talking about. but she couldn't communicate it. So keep it going, girl. Keep it going. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Stuart and Michelle, and everyone that was able to come today. I'm going to be mindful of your time. It's 11 o'clock. Winona is going to have a closing prayer. We'll be back in March, the second Saturday, and I'll send out the information about that. And anything that you might want to have me send to you, including the prayer that for caregivers that Winona shared, I'll send that out as soon as I have all that together. So if all is well.
Terry, did you want me to say the closing prayer?
Oh, I'm sorry. I said you. Didn't I say Kathy? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Winona and I are one. So
Yes.
I just wanted to say that this was a Valentine of love in action. Thank you for this gift today.
You're
what
welcome.
an amazing love story of this family. So thank you.
It's so sweet. I have a very short Apache blessing. May the sun bring you new energy by day. May the moon softly restore you by night. May the rain wash away your worries. May the breeze blow new strength into your being. May you walk gently through the world and know its beauty and grace all the days of your life.
Amen.
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 Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Happy
thank you, everyone.
Valentine's Day.
Yes, happy
Take care,
Valentine's
everyone.
Happy
Day.
Valentine's
Happy
Day. Somebody you
Valentine's
love.
Day.